Welcome, everybody. Another weekend, another Grand Prix, and this one was a shit show at the end because I'm pretty sure it woke up a bunch of people towards the end because it threw me off for a loop. I guess you could say the end of the race was a blowout. And here to join me to break down the blowout is McLaren's own German Dave and Ferrari's miserable other Dave, Canadian Dave. How are you guys?
We got a podium, man. Come on.
That was the most whimpered podium ever.
I heard Verstappen won the race. What?
Yeah.
Verstappen won it in his hearts.
He did not win anything. He did. He got a little bit lucky, and we'll get into that. But before we do get into anything here, that barcode, that's Discord. That's where we continue the conversation. That's where we share all the links, all the media, all that jazz. Get in there, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, get onto our socials. Everything is down in the description. So do that before we get underway. And underway we shall, because man, what an outcome. What, like, who didn't yell at their TV today?
I think I was like, that's when I saw it happen. I was like, no.
I exploded, man. Dude, I was screaming at the TV for the last laps. Like after Max's pit stop, which we will get into, I believe, as well, because it's no coincidence that Verstappen and Perez had both bad pit stops immediately after each other, with Max's 6-second stop and then Perez having an 8-second stop. So I think there was something wrong with the machinery, but we can get into it a bit later.
Do we call him Max Petty Stappen at this point because of how petty he was this race?
Dude, Dash, you're late to the party, man. You missed everything from 2021 on.
Yeah, you can call him all the names you want on this podcast. This one, for once, the Verstappen fans, you know what it's like to be a Ferrari fan to a degree, right? Like, you know how it is to suffer again, finally. So
how was it? How did it feel to watch Leclerc again in the first lap?
Okay, so Leclerc is another big point we got to talk. and this is funny because I was going to, before this whole fiasco happened between Verstappen and Norris, I was like, okay, what's the theme of the pod going to be tonight? And I was just going to be like pit stop practice. Because how many times is this guy going to go into the pits? Not just him. Mind you, he did it more than others. But man, the pit stops, I think that's a record for like overall amount of pit stops with at least for this season at the very least.
Yeah.
Everyone did at least 3.
So how about we do this? How about we structure it like this? So why don't we touch quickly on the sprint and qualifying, and then we go into the meat and potatoes of like the actual race itself.
The sprint, yep. I've already forgotten about the sprint, man. Like,
I was gonna say German Dave didn't, because his two guys ended up taking P2 and P3 in the sprint.
Oh, I know. It's just like so much has happened since, right? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, we'll bring it back.
Yeah. Yep. So sprint 23 laps, Verstappen taking first, home course, obviously. But I think that was the theme of this weekend, man. Verstappen just with some ridiculous time splits. Right? 4.5 seconds. 4.5 seconds, man. The guy's a fucking monster when he's not being petty. Piastri there with the P2, 4.6 seconds behind. Lando Norris really far behind with 5.3 seconds. Still, I mean, it's good for McLaren. They are getting points for the constructor build because Sergio Perez finished 8th in the sprint. So right now, because unfortunately Dave Ferrari's kind of out of this constructor build right now, it looks like it's McLaren and Red Bull. So they did outpace. So with McLaren drivers getting 13 points versus Red Bull's 9, they are outpacing them with the points on the sprint perspective. So McLaren is getting the points. I don't know if they're going to challenge them in the constructor build, but the
I mean, I'll just have to put up the current standings. Ferrari's still, 20 something points. Yep. It's the fight's there. The fight's still on. All right, let's not.
Yeah, but dude, if you're slower than the Mercedes by now, who had the crapshoot of a car at the start of the season. My God, this was a track that Ferrari was supposed to be quicker than the Mercedes, because this is one of their best tracks.
Ferrari's having issues, so they're upgrades, and they're not. And I thought about this because I knew you guys were going to rag on Ferrari. Oh, they're not quick enough.
To me, it's
listen,
It's not hate. It's not hate.
ragging
It's
on
not hate.
Ferrari,
No,
Ferrari is
no,
like
it's
picking on an
pastime.
orphan. It's
It's
like
a
picking on an
pastime.
orphan.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
frowned upon. It's frowned
So
upon.
here's the deal. Their upgrades is causing a lot of bouncing. Things aren't working out. I mean, we can trash on Aston Martin as well. Like what did Alonso do today? Because
dude,
their
Aston Martin,
upgrades went the wrong fucking direction. So I mean, it's not just Ferrari that's struggling right now, and this is what's exciting about this season is that Max has always been out there up front. You've had Ferrari challenging, now you have McLaren challenging, then you have Mercedes showing up challenging today. We don't know what we're getting any given week, and with Perez being at the back of those other three teams, Red Bull is the best and the worst of the top 4 teams. So everyone's fighting on the inside, and all we can hope for is that we continue to claw. Like at this point, I think for our McLaren Mercedes, it's like that coalition of enemies. It's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? This is what we got to do. The 3 teams got to beat up on Red Bull. Take Max down his pettiness.
I agree. They look at first like couple of weeks ago, I was in the same boat thinking it is the McLaren and the Ferraris are on par, but just slightly behind the Red Bull. And now what is crystallizing or is crystal clear to me is that Max is way in front of the Ferraris and way in front of the Mercedes right now. It's still arguable whether they are on pace of the Red Bull or if Max once again is dragging that car like up front where it maybe shouldn't even be. At first, to me, a small spoiler for the race, the first 50-something laps looked like he was in complete control to me, and that he kept a certain gap to Norris, so he's safe from an undercut. But then you saw that there was some panic with him when he messaged the team with all the tires and this and that, and you clearly saw that he got angrier and angrier lap by lap. And there you see that I think he doesn't have the fastest car, or at least it's on par with the McLaren. And this is the best indicator for me that they are on the same pace, basically.
The race pace, yeah, because clearly this weekend, Max clearing 4/10, 5/10 a second throughout qualifying. It's just insane, right? So this is almost what Ferrari Charles Leclerc was doing last season, where he can put a pole every single weekend, but then the tire degradation, the race management, and then as you have to manage more and more, the frustration builds. So Austria sprint race, that's a super quick race. It didn't bite Max in the ass for the sprint, but he quite literally got nips in the actual full length race.
No, like in my opinion, Max with the Red Bull is still the fastest package because he can, even if the McLaren looks faster on track, the package or the combination of Max and the Red Bull still is the fastest.
Max can push some corners and push that car. Like it's insane. Like it's like, for example, we can make fun of him, and we are going to. This is going to be a little bit of a Max Petty-Stappen troll podcast, but the skill is there, man. Like for example, I don't want people to get the impression where it's us 3 saying like, no, Max Verstappen's not good. He's just because of the no, dude. Like some of the movements, the reaction speed, that guy is fucking insane. Like
I think it's just that. Well, no, I think that's the thing is that he is showing that he is human, right? We keep on saying that he's a robot, he's a cyborg, he's not human.
He's shown
this weekend he's
side.
human. He does have a heart.
Petty side. He has shown his inner Schumacher.
Yeah. So, and we're gonna get into that a little bit too, I think, because that was a conversation in the Discord.
That was a conversation there, but
the Discord
qualifying though, Verstappen takes qualifying. Lando Norris with a second place qualifier. That was actually pretty damn close, especially in Q3.
Was
like
very close,
0.4.
Yeah, another tight one.
That was really tight. And then Russell right behind Lando at 0.1, 0.15. really, really tight qualifying.
The
this
the
round,
Mercedes is getting up there, and I was just to get also very quickly on Mercedes because we will talk a bit more in depth about all the teams when we go towards the race, but also just as a short notice, like this is a track that was bad for the Mercedes since the 2022 season because Mercedes has like from the ground on a very draggy car, and this is a high-speed track. Like, make no mistake about it, it has like a couple of corners, but it's a very, very much a high-speed track. So it was to me very surprising that the Mercedes was this quick because it means that they got on top of a lot of problems because they have shown the pace on different tracks right now. They showed it on Barcelona, which is a kind of a slow track, or it has a mix of quick corners, slow corners, longer straights, shorter straights, and stuff like that. And now they've shown it on a high-speed circuit as well, which tells me that the Mercedes is now back to consistency and up there in the fight, at least against the Ferrari. But it may also be that they may take a couple of points away from the McLarens or the Red Bulls, certainly from Perez, for example. And this will hurt like Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship because the Mercedes now are always in front of Perez. The Ferraris most of the time are both in front of Perez. So it's basically Red Bull sandwich from 1 to 8.
Mm-hmm. And that's why it's going to be interesting. Week in, week out now for the past about 4 or 5 races. Maybe you kind of saw it at the beginning of the season.
We have entertainment.
But yes, we finally have entertainment.
Yeah.
And just looking ahead too, because we're talking about Merc finally picking up some pace. Maybe Ferrari losing it. We have quite the interest, and that's the thing. We're actually seeing a broad range of different tracks. Now you can say Spain, Austria are pretty similar. Now we're going to Britain. Again, a somewhat similar high-speed track. It's got some slower turns in this one. It's a bit longer. Then you go to Hungary, which is tight and slow.
It's nearly a copy of Monaco. Like in terms of the speed, it's the closest track there's to Monaco because it's even slower than a street track like Singapore, for example. Hungary is slower
it's
than
not
that
a street.
Track.
It's just not a street track. It's an actual track, but it's super slow.
It's nicknamed Monaco without the barriers, I believe.
Yeah, and then after that, the most famous Belgium coming up. So I mean, a good mix of tracks.
And Monza.
And then after
that is
it's all over.
Like full gas.
So we're in for it. Like this, we're into the European like pre-summer break. We're gonna be killing it here. It's gonna be fun. And we'll just see, because I mean it's getting. When was the last time that we had this? How many years has it been? Because before that we had and then before that you had the Lewis domination. Before that, I mean it's just so fun. We're finally there, guys. We're finally there.
Yeah.
It's great.
After 2008, ironically, which was Hamilton's first championship win. After that, you had the Brawn dominating the first part of the season. Red Bull kinda catching up. Then from 2009 to 2013, you had the Vettel dominance in the Red Bull, and after that, you had like season after season the Mercedes domination with one championship by Rosberg sprinkled into it, and then it like neatly went into the Verstappen dominance era. So Formula One goes directly into eras, and now we will see if this is in continuation of the Red Bull era going into next season, or if it's again a case of the regulation set ending. Next season will be the last set of this regulation, the 2025 season, and we will see if it's closed up like in 2021 again. We will see that.
Okay, so qualifying sprint. More qualifying.
Dude, I hate this. I hate the schedule so much, man.
It's a lot. It really is a lot.
I know. I'm just trying to learn this sport too, and I'm just like, there's this.
Dude,
I'm not gonna lie, playing F24 has helped me. And I've played it on the hardest difficulty, so like I could actually go through the full experience. Guys, don't get me wrong, viewers.
It's bad.
I'm a complete dumbass when it comes to this, but it's keeping me, I'm treading water.
He's
Like,
the
this
new
is-
guy for this sport. We keep it's fun.
You've got 2 seasoned veterans, and then you got the one guy that's a footy fan that's learning the thing. So it's just like it's two vets and one footy guy. That's pretty much what this is.
You still haven't picked the team either.
But you're getting into it, man.
I haven't.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm still a free agent. So chat or comments.
He's not. He already sold his soul for when it's Red Bull Ford powertrains in 2026.
Yeah,
have
Ford,
not- I have not
Detroit.
done that. I have
He
not
already
done that.
sold his soul.
I have not yet. I have not. Ford is the automaker I despise the most.
Okay,
Get
so
Andretti in.
yeah, Andretti. That's okay. So we don't like Ford. We want to try. I hope there's some Yanks in there that's like, you don't like Ford, or are you a Chev guy? Which one is it? We're gonna get the Ford, the Chev, the Dodge. Let's
Who,
get
me?
the. Let's get yeah. This is gonna turn to NASCAR talk now.
NASCAR.
Okay, let's stay away from that one. I drive a Toyota and a Honda. Keep it Japanese.
If for preference, I'm a Nissan guy, but
Oh, there you go. Another Asian.
right- I'm a
Okay, so German Dave, do you drive a German car? What do you drive?
Yeah, European, not German.
Just European. What is it?
Hey, what if you tell him he's like, yeah, I drive an Opel.
It may or may not be Swedish.
It's the Saab
Ooh.
or the Skoda?
A Volvo.
Volvo. Okay. All right, those aren't so bad, I suppose. I would never buy one in North America because you can't afford the parts. But
Yeah, there's that, and then like for example, you get frowned upon in North America if you're driving anything European.
that's America. Canada doesn't care. But anyways, guys, let's get into the race.
You
we
can
fall
have
for-
cars.
No, we all drive skidoos, snowmobiles. Because
Oh, my
it's
life
always-
is a lie. I thought you guys just go mooseback. No, I'm just kidding.
They drive on 4-wheel buggies, man,
Hey.
through the snow.
Oh, my bad there, Ray. Accidentally took out your buggy there. Sorry there, Mex. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to send you back to pit. But anyways, let's get into this. Let's get into this race. As it went, a lot of action the first lap, right? A couple of potential penalties. I think.
Oh,
Was like, for example, I think the one thing I want to ask was, did Piastri actually fuck up Leclerc's car?
no. For me, that was it. So, him, Leclerc, and Perez went into the same corner next to each other, which is always a bad mix. And I think the fault was with no one there because it was already 2 cars on the out. Like from Leclerc's point of view, it was one on the left and one on the right, and the poor guy just got sandwiched. Like Piastri turned in, Perez didn't turn in enough, in my opinion. But okay, it is an unfortunate situation, but that is what happens when you start in the middle of the pack. But also, it's not a big fault of him because the cars in qualifying were so close to each other. So I don't fault him like too much for being there around Piastri and Perez.
Here's the thing, and this is as the dominoes fall throughout the weekend, right? So Charles, he's just so unlucky sometimes. We thought his luck kind of turned this season. We're seeing now car problems, stalling the anti-stall kicking in there, not being able to put in his lap there in Q3.
Yep.
This is what happens when you get stuck in the middle of the pack. And who else got stuck back there? Oscar Piastri due to his penalty, right? So when you have fast drivers like that right in the middle of the pack and they're trying, because we saw Charles do that and Russell do that in the sprint and jump 3 spots. It's doable. You can do it, but these guys are pushing, and man, turn 1, lap 1.
Yep.
Good luck. And Charles didn't have it.
And just to go back to the sprint for a second as well, you also had Lando nearly pushing Piastri off the track as well, like in their start in the sprint. So that corner is always like hard to get because you can take a little bit more speed into that corner. It's a pretty quick corner because it's not like exactly 90 degrees. It has a very wide exit out of the corner. so you can overtake there and push also cars right, because you have that much space as well, like next to the curb, because there's no gravel trap. And the sausage curb like doesn't deter anybody from going outside of the track as well there. So yeah, they always try some crazy stuff there, because you can gain positions, but also if you judge it wrong, you can get a lot wrong there. And that is what happened
Yeah,
in the start of the regular race.
and then speaking of just some also things like that, right? With Hamilton and Sainz as well, a little bit of shenanigan that was going towards near the gravel pit. Looks like they wanted to investigate for a potential penalty for leaving the track to gain an advantage, but it looks like they opted not to. So, did you guys have anything? Was there no foul play there, or do you think that they should have looked into it more?
Was that the sprint or the?
No,
race?
it's the race. I want to say
No, the regular race. Yeah.
Man.
lap 1 with Hamilton.
Oh, lap 1.
Because they both left the track and kind
Yeah.
of gained an
Yeah,
advantage.
but most of the time when both of them leave the track, or
Yeah.
one driver gets pushed out by the other one, most of the time the FIA leaves the handoff. When it happens during the race and one guy pushes the other off and costs him a position, for example, or you drive off the track to gain speed on the outside of the track, because effectively you have a wide exit out of the corner and take also much more speed out of the corner. That gives you an advantage, and in this case it didn't happen in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's also, again, turn 1. There's some leniencies that can be taken because it is always a mess. But and that's why I was confused. Did Hamilton not have to give a spot back in the sprint as well?
No, it was right here. He gave it back to Sainz. He gave the position back and was then stuck for the next, I don't know what, 20 laps behind Sainz.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I was just trying to think. I think Hamilton.
No, he passed him up the hill and was pushed a bit by Sainz, but they weren't sure if they will get a penalty for it, so they left Sainz through as a precaution.
Yeah, they did that.
to
No,
not
I'm just
get
thinking
the
earlier.
penalty.
I was just it doesn't matter. Correct me. Comments will correct me.
Sainz the position back, but I don't know if it was necessary, because Sainz pretty much pushed him out of the track, if I remember 100% correctly.
Yeah, no, I remember that now. No, like what I'm saying is I think Hamilton got a little pushy as well this weekend, but I can't remember exactly. I'm sure the comments, if I'm completely
a lot happened, man. It's too much F1.
a lot did happen. Yeah. Those sprint weekends are, wow, so much does happen, especially this one. Fun. Okay, so
you want me to keep following through then?
So we finally got through the first turn.
Yeah, the first turn, which was like the biggest issue. The race kind of slows down a little bit, right? So a little bit of action in lap 10 with the Magnussen and Ricciardo to make a pit stop where they switched on to the hard tires. So a couple of cars started with hards off rip. It looked like a majority of them were doing medium compounds, unless unless you're Charles Leclerc, where you're doing like multiple tire changes the entire weekend. Sorry, Charles, we got to make fun of you. But sorry, Dave. But the first pit stop happened at lap 10. And then Hülkenberg pitted one lap later before coming back on close to Magnussen. That was interesting because it looked like they were almost going to compete with each other for their positioning for a bit. It was kind of ironic there.
But hold up. I have a hot take on that, because in my opinion, the Haases played the team game perfectly. They followed each other with the DRS, passed other cars together, which worked beautiful. Like they passed how many cars behind each other? Dude, it was great. And they didn't fight each other like a certain other French team right there that has a goddamn French civil war inside the team.
You said a certain other French team, like there's more than one French team. No, it's just the only French team.
Yeah, the only French team, but I don't want to acknowledge them because I'm so disgusted with how they manage their team and with the drivers being too dumb to drive as a team.
It just goes to show, if you have a celebrity ownership, it doesn't mean you're going to do anything like Wrexham does.
But we still want Andretti to own a team, though, right? No.
Well, he's a celebrity because he's a race celebrity, not because
sell it to whoever. Sell it to whoever. Sell it to D&D Sports, and we will manage it properly.
Could you imagine that? German Dave is principal, and then Canadian Dave is like lead
Dude.
mechanic or lead engineer. That'd be funny.
George,
I don't
you
even,
can win this race. This will be me.
I don't even know what I would be doing. I think I'd
You're
just be
the actual
tweaking.
engineer here. I'm the guy that changes the back right tire.
I just put Huck 2 on stuff or Huck 2 of WD-40
And
on
spit on
things.
that thing.
Yeah, spit on that thing with a little bit of WD-40. You get that thing wheeling. And
So
dealing.
speaking of the Haas, and I did want to point this out, best finish of the season, Nico 6th and K-Mag in 8th.
And
so
also the best race finish by Nico Hülkenberg since 2019. Congratulations, man. It was a great performance.
So that Ferrari engine, I mean, it
The
can
Ferrari
go.
engine, dude. But you know what? That tells me where the performance of the Ferrari could have been, and that tells me honestly that they have done something wrong with the development, because usually on a track where the Ferrari is quick, the Haas is quick as well, and vice versa. And that tells me that the Ferrari took a different direction in the car development.
It's the
And I
bouncing that they've been having.
Yeah.
It's just, and because we'll look at Merc, they had the bouncing. That's when they were really slow. It seems like this ground effect cars that you just make that one adjustment, that aerodynamic adjustment on the floor somewhere, or the side pod. It doesn't matter. And then bam, like you're bouncing like a mofo.
Yep. And the problem is to get rid of it, you have to sacrifice too much. You have to sacrifice the right height, which gives you a lack of grip, or you have to put much more downforce on the car, which slows you down on the straights. Like it has a whole like a ripple effect if you have the bouncing. Yeah.
So just to crash course it on the technical side for those who might be wondering, with the down effect cars. So basically the floor, the underbelly of the car is what's sucking it down into the road. It's kind of called the ground effect. You'll see helicopters do this. If you see helicopters hover and get some forward momentum when they're really close to the ground before taking off, that's what they're doing. There's that cushion of air that's underneath the rotors. Same with the car. There's this cushion of air, and that's sucking you down, creating your downforce. So the closer you are to the ground, the more downforce you can create, which essentially is going to give you better control through the turns. It's going to make you quicker at the end of the day. So the teams are trying to get you as close to the ground with as stiff as a suspension to keep you as close to the ground, but you go a little bit too far, and now you're actually touching the ground, and that's no good. Then you start losing traction because you're riding your floor instead of your tires. Not to mention you're going to damage the floor, lose aerodynamics because you're damaging things essentially. So there is that knock-on effect. So that's the crash course. I won't worry too much.
And just to go just a little bit deeper into it, the bouncing happens when you have the suction to the track by the ground effect, and you touch the car touches the ground, then like Dave said, and the car bounces back up, and then the ripple effect happens because it gets sucked back down and it bounces up again. And that happens when you don't have your right height adjustment correctly, the aero set up perfectly. That is what happens with these cars. If you don't have everything perfectly set up, then you have this so-called bouncing effect,
or porpoising. You'd also
porpoising.
Yeah. Okay. So this isn't a tech talk. I mean, everyone does do the tech talk.
I mean, let's add this because, like, for example, this is more so towards the strategy of the race, right? So originally, a lot of these guys were going for a two pit race for the most part, right? But a lot of the principals or a lot of the engineers were noticing that the hard compound looked very, very poor on a lot of the cars.
So did not perform on this track today.
Did not do well at all because the expectation was they do hard for the first 3/4 of the race and then switch to medium and round it out there.
And you see that a lot. A lot of tracks, that is the strategy. Go long with the hards.
Go hard and go long. That's what she said. But one of the big things, right, was the issue was that the hard compound was just not holding well on this at all. So a lot of teams were adjusting and going to a 3-stop. I know Red Bull didn't anticipate that. That was the advantage that the McLarens had over the Red Bulls, was that they, McLaren had 2 sets. Lando had 2 sets of medium ready to go. So I
Charles
think
had 3 apparently.
he apparently grew another. They had a rubber tree.
Dude,
He grew medium
dude,
compounds.
it's crazy to me how Ferrari always has too many tires of the wrong compound left. Do you remember that Budapest race, I believe 2 seasons ago, where it was ice cold? It was like 5 degrees or 10 degrees or something, and the Ferraris went onto the hard tire, and they just slipped around like they drove with stone tires around. Man.
Oh yes, I do remember that now. Thanks for reminding me.
You know what if
welcome.
Leclerc had soft compound tires? Would he actually have done better this race?
No, because the soft tires also had only like 5 laps of actual performance. So the key was to get the hard tire on into a temperature window in which the tires can work properly, which is what Red Bull didn't manage to do. The McLaren is always good on the harder compounds because the McLaren puts a lot of energy into the tires, which is why they can fire them up quicker, which is why Verstappen was so concerned on his second stint on the hard tire, because Norris was just chilling there. He didn't push it, and his tires were in temperature already. And you heard before Max came into the final stop that ultimately costed him around 6.5 seconds. He was complaining lap after lap after lap because he was losing his tires while Lando was catching up, like here 5 tenths, then 4 tenths the next lap. And that was how it became slow and why Max started panicking at the front. And the Red Bull, on the other hand, is very good on the softer tires because they work the tires softly and like very balanced into their window. They don't put a lot of energy, so they have a better tire life overall, but they need longer to fire the tires up, which is why, if you all paid attention, when Norris comes out of the pit after Verstappen, which is why Norris always makes that much time up, because he gets his tires like fired up within 1 lap. Even if it's the hard tires, he again managed it today. Like he has immediate performance, which the Red Bull right now doesn't have when they come freshly out of the pit.
So there's a few things that happened with that pit stop. Are we ready to jump ahead? This is when it all started, was the pit stop.
Do you want to start
Yeah.
with the Alonso and Zhao confrontation that led to the 10-second penalty for Alonso? Or
Alonso
Yeah,
was
dude, Alonso
pissing
missed his
everyone
braking
off.
points and drove into his butthole and shoved him off the track.
he thought he could make it through. He couldn't. He pushed it. He screwed up. He's having a bad season. And again, this is what you see when you have an otherwise good driver and things aren't working out. I mean, they make mistakes. You saw Charles do that today. You saw Alonso do that today. And of course, you saw Verstappen and Norris do that today.
Starting at lap 24. Lap 24, so Verstappen was making his pit stop. With him behind was Norris that was following him, that they were both to put the hard tires on, leaving Piastri to temporarily hold pole until both of them would come out. Ironically, Verstappen pulled out quite quickly out there. I don't know, allegedly they're saying Lando was saying that he exited way too quickly and didn't allow him to pit, or kind of threw up Lando's pit. So that was the first thing, but it was investigated for unsafe release in the pit lane, where didn't look like anything was out of it from the stewards. The stewards thought that there was
but I agree with it. We have seen lots of worse, like unsafe releases. This was kind of on the edge, but it was still okay. Like they didn't release him right next to Norris. He was able to get into his pit box properly. It was a bit cheesy, like what Red Bull had done, but still, in my opinion, it wasn't worthy of a penalty.
Again, Red Bull this is going to be the theme. Red Bull getting pushed more than they're used to.
Yeah,
even in the pit lanes.
And in some instances, Red Bull get the benefit of the doubt, but in my opinion, there was nothing like inherently wrong with this decision by the stewards to not penalize them.
And when we say this is a team game, these are the things we're talking about, like your crew chief in the pit, like releasing your car that close within thousandths of a second of another car screaming. Like this is why this is a team game, because if one guy screws up, which we'll see in a bit, everything changes.
Yep. Hamilton getting hit with a punishment, though. He did get a penalty forgot what it was over.
He crossed the white line on
Oh,
the pit entry, which
That's a
would
tricky
happen
one.
to, I forgot to who else, but it happened twice during this race. But we
So
will see.
that-
see, guys. But
and-
yeah, he was drifting into the corner, like the tires were done, and he had a little bit too much speed. He had a small drift and went with the both left tires like onto the line on the pit entry, which is forbidden because you go with so much speed into that last corner that you have the cars that go into the pits. They need to be on the right side. If they go slightly towards the left side, they're directly on the racing line of the cars, like trying to pass them, and that is why it's punished that heavily. And yeah, no worries there as well for me.
That's one of the hardest pit entries in the
It is.
calendar. It's super high speed, and I mean, when a guy like Hamilton messes it up, and what I suggest, Dash, I don't know if you've done this, take pit assist off in the F124 game.
Oh yeah,
I have.
Actually,
I've ate shit on the walls before.
it's like you're going 150, maybe 200 kilometers an hour, and you have to like go down this tight corner and hit like 80 on the nose, and just
and
like,
by the way,
it perfectly.
Perez got hit with a penalty as well because he was speeding in the pit lane because he missed the braking point. It is
it's hard.
so much on the edge there to brake within like hundredths of a second to get that
nuts.
Perfectly to brake from 250 miles an hour because that's one of the fastest corners, and to brake like, sorry, let me go with kilometers. It was 250 kilometers in that corner, I believe, on the pit entry.
We do kilometers.
And you have to slow down to 80 kilometers an hour, which is crazy to time that within a couple of hundreds or thousands of a second to get that breaking point.
It sucks though if you would lose a pole positioning just because of that. But the other thing that happened, if you heard the radio during this time point of the race, and this might play into a factor why Max might have been panicking a good chunk of this race, was he was told to keep it in 7th. So there was an issue with his gearbox.
We don't know if it was an issue with the gearbox or if it was something to do with the tuning. We know now. I'm thinking back earlier in the weekend as well to the sprint, the qualifying, in terms of the engine recovery. That he was clipping. So basically, what that means is that some of the top end of his engine was cut off to try to recover more of his battery. So I don't know if that was part of it, where the actual like electronics, like the computer control of the engine, if that had anything to do with it, or if it was an actual physical gearbox issue. But yes, regardless, he was having issues on the top end.
Yeah, and I mean, the issues didn't stop for Max as well either, even though, like, for example, Max having 8 seconds over Lando Norris, we start getting into lap 40. Verstappen was reporting saying that his tires were suddenly feeling really, really bad, while Norris was actually gaining momentum and pumped his fastest lap.
Goes back to what Dave said with the tires.
Yeah, making the second pit stop there. If you were watching Alpine,
and from there the shint went off, like from the radio messages of Max that the tires are done.
That's when it got good.
Yeah, that's when it got good because you saw Max panicking. I don't know if you can call it panicking. Like, he just got angry because like it didn't go smooth sailing like it did in the past seasons, or like a major part of this season also. Yeah, he was pushed finally. He was pushed, and his car wasn't smooth sailing like it has been, and that's when he gets on the edge and he gets into his dark arts as well.
Now this is the part of the race where I thought to myself, man, you got Verstappen, you got Norris, they're fighting, they're within, reasonable time of each other. We got a bit of a race going on. Nothing crazy yet, but Norris was within striking distance. I'm like,
I mean, yeah,
man. How crazy would it be right now if they? Because I'm always there. Like, I should be a NASCAR fan because I'm always watching for the crash, right? Like, I'm just waiting for it. Right? Like, how crazy would it be if they just take each other out? Especially when Ferrari's a little bit further down the order. I'm like, come on, guys, before we crash.
Let me get Carlos Sainz in there. No,
and also, just as a small spoiler, to the crash that will eventually happen, I knew it was happening because you saw how both of them were driving. it's
But
not
this is
only Max,
this is the crazy thing.
it's not only Max that's on fault. Yes, for that one maneuver that we will get into, Max was it was his fault. But before that, with how Lando tried to attack him as well, he provoked Max. And when you provoke
he's
Max
poking him.
that way, you piss on him, he shits back.
And
But-
there's no umbrella.
But this was the crazy thought of all of this. I actually said to myself, these guys are professional. They're at the top of their game right now.
No,
These
no,
guys,
no,
this
they're
is
not.
going to be clean
They're
and
not.
boring. This is going to be
They're
clean and
not.
boring.
No,
And
it never is.
it was anything
It never
but.
is. It never is. It never
No.
is.
No.
You think they can make it work, but brother, if you are a driver that pushes Max, and Max has to defend you, that's when shit shit is going up in smoke.
As Max would say, it's childish. But getting we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
So
we are already
Lando,
ahead of
we're getting
ourselves.
there. I know. Lando is cut. Lando at this point, we're getting towards the lap 40th point. So he has cut in 6 seconds into it. Charles Leclerc, if you want to give some props to him, got all the way up to P11 by lap 46. So and then another penalty that happened again, like Hamilton, similar. Albion was given a 5-second penalty for crossing the white line. Again, another thing there.
You had his name right the first time. You added an I the second
Yeah,
time.
Albin?
you try too much.
It's my little brother's name, so it just seems weird.
Yeah. Okay.
So then we
Except
got
if he's Thai, British, and not Albanian.
yeah, exactly right.
So he's Albion the Albanian?
No, is that with an O or is that with an A? No, it's no. His is with ALBAN, and Albin is with the. When you say it in English, they sound very identical.
I just thought it's like those Armenians that are named Armin.
That's actually funny.
I know a couple. Armin the Armenian.
It kind of is.
Yeah,
This is literally half of the name of the country is the first name.
Anyways,
We go on here. So Verstappen continues to say to his race engineer, "I can't hold this much longer." If he can only say it as much dramatically there at lap 48, referring to the tapped Haas cars that were looking at him. So we've got a bunch of cars, and then Max further responds around lap 52 by saying tires are shit. A few laps later.
there was a few swear. I mean, Sonoda got quite the fine this weekend for swearing. on the
Oh
radio,
yeah.
So yeah,
He said the bad R word. No, there are multiple bad R words. The physically disabled
Challenged, yeah.
R word. Yeah. Try to say it as politically correct as I can.
Yep, I got you. Lap 52 though, so we're getting there, folks. We're getting there. Verstappen and Norris both dive into the pit for the medium compound. It was slightly slow for Verstappen thanks to the left rear wheel nut. So unfortunately, Verstappen could. I was gonna say, I guess you could say that Verstappen wasn't quick to bust a nut in this.
Oh,
This
that's a great pun. Oh, that's a beautiful pun, man. That's one of your best so far.
I try. That's what I'm here for. Unfortunately, his nut was not busted and needed a couple more strokes for it to finally get off. And unfortunately for him, his which was at the time 6-second gap went down to 2 seconds. Norris essentially using DRS to edge even nearer to Verstappen, which looking at the final 16 laps of this race, this was going to be quite juicy after though Norris was, and this is where we kind of alluded where Norris was kind of perking him and poking him in the back here, especially with turn 3. Norris tells his engineer.
From there on, like Norris was in his DRS constantly. The Red Bull had still the advantage on the straight line, which is why it wasn't that easy for Norris to overtake him. But from this point on, like Max was full on in defensive mode and Norris was ready to go all in. And you could see it like with the dive bombs that Norris was trying on the inside. Like one time he pushed Max off, he even overtook him, but had to give the position back. And once he tried on the outside, he left the track and was on the first one where he pushed him out of the track, he didn't pass him. But on one of them, he was on the outside of Max, passed him on the outside of track, and had to let Max through again. And that's where you saw, brother, this shit is going off right here, because they were pushing each other like crazy. Like you had one guy that was like full attack, and I knew like Lando will hold nothing back, and I think everybody knows by now that if you push Max, he will not hold back as well in defensive driving.
And
Or
really,
if you call it defensive driving.
we call it Schumacher driving. But so Max then kind of goes out saying, "Hey, look, something's wrong with the car." Where he was talking over the radio, and then Norris was shown a black and white flag as he continued to chase the Red Bull man down. So I think
For track limits,
so-
he was on a so he got 3 track limits, track limit warnings. That gives you then the black and white flag, and for the next one, you receive a 5-second penalty, which he got when he went off track and overtook Max.
Yep, and then Norris then tries, and this is where we have the fun and games here. Turn 3 always seems to be the turn of everything here. Norris tries to do a late move on lap 59 on turn 3, where he initially got past Max there, but it looked like, and this is him giving it back again with the track limits. That's kind of what we referred to there.
Yep.
And then we get it again here. So the tables return 2 laps later when Verstappen tries to run him right off the tarmac following another duel. And unfortunately that's where the tensions boiled over and the contact happens and resulting 2 punctures. I believe it was the left rear for Verstappen, and then I think
The
rear's touched.
the rear right of Norris.
Yeah, the rear's touched.
Yeah.
They were given no space. Honestly, at the end of the day, and you say tensions were boiling. They were boiling. I think they were boiling like at the 40 mark. Like it was a good rolling boil. Like this was just like the pot was evaporating at this point.
It was already boiling over. The water was dripping onto your.
it
onto
was steamy.
You know, like when you're boiling pasta and you forget it, and it like gets foamy, and then all over the place that salty water burns onto your stove.
Everything dirty. It looks like a car crash, like in this case.
So contact was certainly made.
So
man, it was so. Yes, Dave, I guess we have to decide.
Yep, Dave, you had thoughts about it, so let it fly.
Okay, so there is the debate. Whose fault was it? I think pretty unanimously, people are saying it's Max's fault. We got to look back, right? So are we looking at this in isolation? Because if you're looking at it in isolation, that turn, that maneuver, it was probably Max's fault.
Yeah.
But how many dive bombs was Norris put? Not saying I wasn't here for it, because I was definitely here for it.
Oh, we were there for the chaos, man.
But and you can even argue, right? Because he was dive bomb, he went off. He had track limits again. Technically, was he pushed off? Should he have gotten the penalty? He ended up getting that penalty after he got out of his car. It didn't matter. But like so much was happening within. Again, this is a minute, and they were doing this minute 9, minute 10 race pace. A minute, like a 70-second lap, and just lap after lap after lap, and it was just like turn 4. Is it gonna dive bomb into turn 4? And then all of a sudden, bam! Things just exploded. Tires were everywhere. There was more F bombs and shit bombs all over the race. It was amazing. I jumped out of my seat. I woke my wife up because she had a late night. I didn't care. Things were exciting. I was losing my mind. I was like, I went from like writing this race off to being like another boring Verstappen to win to fuck yeah, Ferrari's on the podium.
He busted a nut.
For me, it was incredible. For me, it was incredible because I felt like in 2021 all over again. Just this time, it wasn't my driver that was involved, which felt pretty nice watching it from the outside. And dude, man, both of them are petty as hell. And look, the thing in 2021 is that for the first couple of races that were already close, Hamilton he just let Max be Max. He let Max shove him off the track, etc. Which is why Max made so much points up in the first half of the season, where then Hamilton had to claw all those points back in the second half of the season. because he let Max do just everything. Like he barely defended because he was scared that Max will like he shoved him off the track. He cut him off sometimes. Sometimes they even touched before that in Monza. Like in the sprint race, Max landed on top of Hamilton with his rear tire laying on Hamilton's helmet. If you remember that
Yeah,
that visual,
that was funny,
dude.
Childish.
It was going absolutely off, and ironically, this feels the same, but it has even more potential to be even more disastrous because Norris doesn't hold back like Hamilton has with his experience. If Max holds in a tire where it's not supposed to be, guess what? Lando will do the same to you. If
So
you shithouse
what
Lando,
I'm
he will shithouse you as well.
what I'm excited now is that this is setting the stage for the rest of the season. This is just 11 out of 24, right? We have 13 races to go, and this is firing up. And Piastri's pissed off because there's 2 races in a row now. He's had to start further back in the grid for various reasons. He wants to get in that mix. And then he passes Carlos. Just like, I'm like, man, a P2 for as I'm thinking it, there's Piastri passing him.
Yeah.
Dave's like, hell yeah, Ferrari got some points. Piastri's biased.
Just a pause, because Piastri is my number 1 driver, Hamilton my second favorite. So Piastri, the whole race, he had the better pace over Hamilton and Sainz, who he was behind in the first part. After the first pit stop, he overtook Hamilton like with ease. Hamilton didn't even defend the move, and like he constantly got closer to Sainz. Like he didn't make up like seconds per lap. Like in this race, he actually looked after his tires, which impressed me because Piastri and his tire management was an issue so far. And this race, he managed it really good, in my opinion.
He kept quiet. He just raced.
He came closer and closer. Like it was 0.3 of a second there, 0.5 there, and all of a sudden he was within 1 second, shortly before the crash happened. And then the crash happened, the virtual safety car happened, and he was like immediately behind him, passed him easily, and boom, P2 was in the books.
The chaos allowed that to happen as well, right? So within this whole mess, we have winners and losers, of course. On one hand, we can be upset as Ferrari fans, Charles, he got screwed over this race. Unlucky, sure. But then the fact that Carlos got a podium finish, or we haven't even said who the race winner is after all this.
We will still get there because we're still with the crash. We're still with the crash. Technically, we're not past that point yet.
But yes, of course, as you have a crash, you're gonna get out the flags. In this case, just VSC, because both cars were able to get into the pits. Did they throw the meatball out, or did they just immediately
No,
there
was no meatball. They had to get into the pits anyways. Like they had to go back to change tires. With Lando, the damage was terminal, but you saw on the TV cameras as well that his suspension broke. His rear suspension broke. It was not only a puncture, like he had multiple issues. So his damage was terminal. So he had to so he DNF'd basically. And Max, like, which is still crazy.
This is what amazes me.
Dude,
this mofo
drove three quarters of a lap, drove the car back to the pits on a car that was, I don't know, like he lost 10 seconds on that lap alone. Had a 10-second pit stop because you had to sorry, it wasn't 10
take
seconds.
It off the road.
Yeah. So you had that problem. A longer pit stop. I think I overdone it with the 10 seconds, but it was around 4 or 5, if I remember correctly. It was a bit slower pit stop. Went to the soft tires, and after all that, still finished. What was it? 30 seconds in front of Perez.
It was. I think I wasn't quite. I think it was like 21 or It was. Whatever it was ridiculous. The fact that with his 10-second penalty that he also picked up
and
through that whole ordeal,
yes, I forgot
he wouldn't
that.
still
and the penalty. Yes.
And the fact that he finishes in 5th after all of that, Lando,
that's crazy,
loses out. we'll get into like if he should have pushed in a bit. We have to talk about who actually did win after all of this.
Yep. So the crash
George,
happened.
I was gonna say George, I'm here, Russell.
How
Just so,
did this
this
happen?
is like the movies, right? Where like the debris and the smoke clears, and then this dude comes out, the hero.
George Russell.
Hey, my name is George,
Jesus Russell.
George Russell. Hey,
Jesus
my name is
Russell
George
comes out of the
Russell,
clouds.
and hey, my name is George Russell, and you're probably wondering how I got into this situation.
That's pretty much what happened.
And then there he was. He won the race. He had just had to put a couple of laps down.
And Toto screaming his lungs out like, George, you can win this, dude. He felt energized finally. And brother, Toto Wolff gave us again some new memes with him smiling there, sitting just.
Well, my favorite about it too is Toto gets on the radio. It's like, Russell, you can actually win this, and Russell's like, I know, I get it.
Dude,
can you let me race now? Get off the radio.
But do you know what? I was still scared for the first 2 laps where George was leading, because Piastri gained like half a second or whatever in those 2 laps. But after then, the gap stabilized again. But I was hopeful there for a second for Piastri. I appreciate it for George, and it's great for him. I don't want to take it away from him, but from the POV of a Piastri fan, I thought, hey, maybe there's a chance, but no. Overall, he brought it home. The man brought it home.
Yeah. And 17 seconds.
George. Congratulations, Mercedes. His second win overall after Interlagos, where Mercedes had the 1-2 finish in 2022, I believe.
So, yes. And 17 seconds was your gap between Max and Nico, just for the record, after all said and done.
Ironically, Dave also, ironically, Mercedes won that race in the no side pod car, the 0 pod car. And we're here now, 1.5 years later, with side pods. They drove like shit in between that time, and we're finally back to that point where Mercedes was able to win a race.
Interlagos, there's no aero. That's why they could win that one. They didn't need any pods or any aerodynamics back then, because you're just so high up.
Because that high up in altitude, yeah.
Man!
Congratulations for Mercedes. They got the car back, so it can be in these situations to profit off of situations like this if they happen. They are close there. They're fighting for podiums on merit now. So it's good overall. Mercedes gained a lot of performance. We have to see where Ferrari is. But at the front, man, it's spicy between Verstappen and the McLarens. Not Perez. I'm sorry, but bruh, Sergio Perez, my guy. He needs to get this shit sorted.
He's fine where he is. He needs to split the difference with Red Bull and just let Max be Max, and Sergio will just continue being Sergio. And it's a perfect Red Bull team. The rest of us can have some fun.
Yeah, but imagine, like, so Perez is signed up for 2 more years now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I told you. I think he's getting demoted. Like, they're getting rid of Danny Rick, and basically Perez is the new Danny Rick.
Yeah, but you have to imagine if they're next season in the same situation and Lando's even closer to challenging Max, and we're having a 2021 all over again, then he needs a teammate there that tries to deter Norris a little bit.
Now, Max is gone after next year. Listen, Max is gone after next year. Then Ford's coming in. Red Bull's going to ship.
Yeah, but also it's just a Ford badge. Ford isn't doing like actual work on the engines. It's still like powered by Red Bull with their big ass new factory.
Which means it's not powered by Honda, the greatest car manufacturer in the world outside of Ferrari. At least Honda can make a passenger vehicle. Ferrari couldn't do that if they tried. They could make a car that won't break down, and the common man needs a reliable car. That's all I'm saying. Ferrari, you're great, but I'm not driving you to work. But I will drive.
I'm not in this situation. I'm not even in that situation. If I had a Ferrari to drive to work, brother.
Yeah, listen, I'm talking like I got one in the garage next door to my Civic. There, I do not.
if I have one, I'd go there getting my groceries with the Ferrari, man.
I got the shoes though. You see, oh, you can't.
You do with a Ford.
I got a killer deal on the shoes. There you go. Bam. Check
Yeah.
those babies out. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's not focusing.
you can use those for sim driving as a
I
teaser
can't. That's why I got 'em.
for upcoming projects.
For upcoming projects, yes. I've been sim racing all weekend too. It's fun, but that's not what we're talking about. We'll get into the sim racing a bit later, month or two. But until then, okay, we got a couple questions. I know we like to go through like the biggest losers, the biggest upset, but the question I want to pose more so, Lando. We kind of questioned him last week. Did he lose the race? And in this one, it's not even did he lose the race. Did he just ruin his complete? Like he didn't even get second. He didn't get. No, he DNF.
was out. Yeah, he got
But
out cold, basically.
should he have pushed regardless? Did he have? Because for me, he had to prove that he's on the dance floor, that he's gonna come
I agree.
at Max. What do you guys?
I agree. 100%. If you drive against Max, you have to show him the ropes, basically. You can't drive half-arsed against Max Verstappen. And this is why I agree with all the maneuvers Lando did. They were on the edge, but all of them were within the rules, except of the one where he overtook off track, got the penalty. Hey, he got penalized for his error, basically. So it's
Sort
okay.
of.
Like, yeah,
a penalty that didn't matter, but yeah, he got the penalty.
But then, like, he still tried, and you have to, when you drive against Max, you have to give it everything, and you have to drive hard against him because he will defend the hell like out of you. And if you don't try it like full on, you're not able to pass him, or not. Of course, then also not able to win a championship against Max. And even if Lando doesn't win the championship this season right now is forming his character. It's forming his character. It's forming his racecraft. Like this season is what will help in the future, if not this season, of course, because the gap is quite large. But imagine like a couple of these incidents or a couple of these races, and maybe if for one Max gets unlucky, it's already 25 points down. And also there are 3 more sprints left. 2 or 3.
I know, so many.
So
Dash.
There are so many points to give. So man,
Dash, how do you feel about this one? Was it worth the risk? Was the lack of points today worth showing Max that he's ready to fight?
I don't know. I mean, for me, it's just like my initial thought was like, damn, like McLaren got screwed out of this, like badly, because like Max was still able to get fifth pole, and then I think technically McLaren made up ground with Piastri's P2, but it's unfortunate because like I think McLaren were gonna do either a 2 and 3 or a 2 and 4 finish as far as polls go with both of them there.
They lost points overall.
They did, right?
Because both Red Bulls finished still in the points.
Yeah.
So when I think about it, right, when I'm looking at it, I see it as like, yes, it's a victory. It kind of like puts a chink in Max's armor. So I think, for example, Norris doing what he did, despite the fact that he did total the vehicle, or the vehicle did get totaled, I still think now that Max is going to be racing with one eye over his shoulder, which I think is going to throw Max off for the rest of the season. I think because, like, for example, Max, and it happens, right? It happens to everybody. When you're dominating or where you're winning so much, where you start making small little neglections on certain things, and then when it finally catches up to you, you kind of were, oh shit, like what the hell? Like it's very, you get really, really, really shaky. And I think that was the first domino effect and the shakiness that you'll see. Am I saying that Max is going to go on a losing streak? No, absolutely not. From what I've seen, the guy looks like an absolute menace to society when it comes to being behind the wheel. But I think with Lando doing with what he did there, it opens it up now where now Max is kind of like, oh shit, this guy does not give a fuck. Because, like, for example, I think if Lando pulled back and gave it to Max and let Max go, then Max wouldn't have been like, oh, whatever, this guy's, he's going to concede anyways. But now it's just like Max sees that Lando's crazy enough to risk his car to make that move.
Yep.
So Max is like, what's there to stop him from doing it again?
The crazy thing is, Dash, let me just add on top of this. Like I said, Max is now in the situation and what Hamilton was in 2021, and Norris is the carbon copy of Max in 2021. So what Hamilton did back then was conceding the position. Like, okay, I give you the 25 points, but I bring home 18 points and not break the car trying a desperate overtake. But Verstappen, on the other hand, tried the desperate overtakes on Hamilton, which is where Norris is right now. This is a carbon copy with the roles reversed of 2021. So Max, yes, has to look over his shoulder, but also, as much as a machine or as much as a robot Max is, every driver has a mistake somewhere in him. In 2021, it was, for example, the Saudi Arabian GP qualifying, where he had on his final lap purple sectors in the first and second sector, and he was, I believe, a second quicker than the lap that Hamilton did in the qualifying. But he wanted it too much and crashed his right rear tire into the wall on his last lap and conceded the position to Hamilton. I think he started a few places down in that Grand Prix as well. So if you are challenged, these are mistakes that can happen to you. It's millimeters. On this level, it is millimeters. If the smallest error happens, it can cost you a whole race, a qualifying, you start further back. And also what you have to consider, the Red Bull has only one fresh engine left because before they have to take a, what was it, 10-place grid penalty?
10-place grid penalty, yeah. They've used their allotment of engines already.
So in one of these races, Max will get a penalty and start further back. Even if he gets pole, he will start from P11.
And this year, it's not going to be like Miami where he just finishes.
Yes. And Norris in this position, if Norris finishes in qualifying behind Max, he starts from pole. So, or if he even if he finishes qualifying on P2 or P3, he starts so much further at the front than Norris is. And with the pace Mclaren is on, if Norris has free air in front of him, he will drive away, and Max will not be able to catch him, which was the difference to the last 2 seasons. So there's an actual challenge right now to take points away from Max. I'm not trying to do or to create artificial like drama here, but they are so closely matched that a small error here or there, or like I said, the grid penalty can all of a sudden bring him back to within 50 points or whatever. I think they're about 70-75 points divided, I believe, right now. But it's, hey, you have to consider one race win, for example, and they're back to 50, and you have to think in small steps at this stage.
Okay, here's the driver standings anyways, just so we know. 237 to 156, Verstappen to Norris, and then Leclerc at 150 just behind there. But yeah, that gap, I'd expect it was a lot closer. Leclerc, of course, having a DNF, not getting his points again today. So that's 2 races this season without any points. Again, it's the classic, everyone behind Max is taking points off each other and letting him get, just like in the races, if he gets up in the clean air, he gets away with it, but that's starting to get taken away. So
look at Max doing double the points of Perez. Max doing casually the double of points of Perez, and look how close it is from Perez to Piastri and who else behind him, I believe Russell.
Yeah, that's closing up to you real quick.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, it is.
That means Perez is behind all those guys on a constant basis by now.
Yeah.
So
no more second place finishes. Okay. Yeah. So that being said, who was the biggest loser this race?
Leclerc. Easily, Leclerc.
just because he finished out of the point. Like he did okay.
I just wanted to
no. Like it's true. No, he's for sure one of the contenders
Right.
for this. Absolutely.
No, but I mean more so from a mechanical, right? That's not him as the driver. I would say more so like them not being able to sort him having a vehicle issue again.
Yeah, the anti-stall thing that has happened is just, and this is the tricky thing. We're bringing it back now to qualifying, where they want to go. The fastest cars are always going to push because they're pushing for first place for the pole position.
Yep.
They want to go when there's the most amount of rubber down on the track, which is as late as possible. But when you give yourself literally seconds to play with and your anti-stall messes up, well, there goes your precious few seconds. You couldn't complete the lap.
Yep.
So many times this week, like we're talking about, I mean, this weekend is just full of it. It's these little dominoes that fall here and there.
It's all nuances. It's
the
all
one
nuances.
thing
On a high level like this, everything is a millimeter decision, a milliseconds decision. On this level, in an engineering sport like this, where the teams are so closely matched up, where the drivers are on such an incredible pace, because all the drivers up there, except of Perez, unfortunately, are incredibly close, like in performance. Like Norris and Verstappen, of course, are on top of everybody behind them, in my opinion, right now, because they're pushing each other to a different level right now. But the teams and the drivers are so closely matched right now that the smallest error can lead you to start from P8 all of a sudden, because they're so close to each other.
Here's a fun little stat. Q3 this weekend was the closest qualifying in the history of the three qualify era. So
segment era,
0.8 seconds between 1 and 20.
Yeah.
That's how close this is. Now, yes, Max was on old tires. But that being said, there used to be seconds, like multiple seconds between first and 20. There is now less than 1.
Yep.
That is ridiculous.
And also, you have to imagine in a series where you are, of course, there's the rule set. You can do like work or play with aerodynamics, like, of course, with the term and within the terms of the rule book. But it's basically a completely free engineering race series. And it's so crazy to me. And this is the fascination of F1. And I think you guys agree with me as engineers or as technically like appreciative guys over here. Like, to engineer these cars to these small margins to be so close to each other is incredible to me. It's so fascinating, man.
Yeah, I think the one thing I find it frustrating for Ferrari, right, is that he is your lead seat, and yet you cannot get his vehicle right.
Like it's just bad luck.
For me, it was unlucky. It was unlucky, man. This was unlucky.
But there's videos out there, more that came out this weekend about, like, is Charles the most unlucky driver? This happens every season.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
And then, like, I think more so for me, though, like, from a losing perspective, like, as far as a driver, like, you guys might hate me for this, but, like, for example, you would have to say Norris, right? Even though it wasn't his fault, the accident wasn't his fault, but leading up to it, right? It's one of those things where it's like, you get close to the sun, you get burned. I think that's kind of like the analogy.
For me, it is Norris, but not on the basis of performance, because of the points he lost. He's not the loser, like, in terms of driving bad, or
it wasn't that he was shit. He just risked it.
But just in terms of losing again, that crash still ended up benefiting Max, because he won points effectively on Norris. And this is why Norris is, in my opinion, the loser, but not on the basis, like I said, of him being a bad driver. Just because of the points table, it's unfortunate for him.
Yeah, it's more so it's more so from the race of the weekend, like, per se. It's not like the actual skill, right? It's not that, like, Norris underperformed. It's just he flew close to the sun and he got burned.
Yeah.
So, and this is why I stipulated with that question earlier. And I wanted to tease that out with Norris, because yes, he obviously lost big, but then he also won.
Hold up, Dave. My positive thing is also Norris, because they are so close to the Red Bulls and to Verstappen. They're they're the best and most unfortunate in this race. But the pace that they are showing on a consistent basis to push Max that far, it's still also the positive. They're both to me. Both is
Does that make him your biggest winner too? Before I give my loser.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we got your biggest loser and winner then, all in one neat package. You wouldn't say it was a neat package on the racetrack, though. It was quite a few different pieces. My biggest loser for the weekend is I'm going to go ahead and say Alonso.
Really?
But he got the fastest lap.
He did get the fastest lap after like pitting at the
on P18 where it doesn't even benefit him.
Yeah, which I'm just glad he took it away from many of the top runners. But no, he just had it like when we're talking about the whole weekend. Okay, let's put it this way. Lance Stroll, who's daddy's boy, who just got a new 2-year contract, which set the internet aflame,
but yeah,
had a better weekend than Alonso, and he didn't score any points. So what does that say?
Yeah, and Dave, just to agree with you, the past 3 races, Stroll has outperformed Alonso. Now, I don't know if you want to put the tinfoil hat on and say, Daddy Stroll is playing with Alonso's car or whatever.
No, that's just a Mercedes thing.
But yeah, Mercedes is doing that to Hamilton today again, man. How dare they slowing down Hamilton? No, but in all honesty, just to divert for a second to Aston Martin, because you mentioned them, they are stealing engineers from McLaren, from Ferrari, from Mercedes. Yeah. They're paying them huge amount of money. They're getting the best engineers of those teams because they can pay that money, because they hadn't had the best engineers up until now. They have a $1 billion factory built with their own wind tunnel by now, I believe. I think they're already using it. They said, when we get out of the Mercedes wind tunnel, we will finally be good and everything. And now they have actually the best engineers. They have an Alonso, which everybody says, he's still one of the greatest drivers to ever grace
he's sport. Good. He's good when you're building an engineering department because you have that driver feedback. So that it's actually one of the benefits of keeping him on.
Yeah. And for that team to be the most spending team, spending the most on engineers, spending the most on factories, and to not have a single idea what to do with the car. Dude, it's crazy to me. To me right now, it looks like they have no direction. I don't know if they have problems with the correlation with what the wind tunnel says and the actual car performance says. They may have like correlation issues there. But to me right now, it looks like they have no idea. They bring new parts to the car and it goes just backwards. Like it went for RB or the Visa Cash App Formula 1 team.
And we're seeing that the cars this year, it either seems upgrades are bang on, like the Merc, and just all of a sudden they're on fire, or they're dropping people. Like you said, the RB, the Aston Martins, even Ferrari feeling it a bit now.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
What I smell right here is we have the situation. This rule set has a season and a half left, and the teams are starting to chuck everything at the wall that they have left in development. I believe.
Oh, for sure.
Because the next the 2025 car, which is with those cars, will be a evolution of these cars right now. And they're throwing everything onto these cars to have their 2025 car ready, because that is the last season of the regulation set. And as I said, those seasons are always the closest ones, because the cars are closing up in performance, because teams are copying off of each other, engineers are changing teams, and information gets spread to the other teams what one team is doing. And this is why they are always like closing up to each other at the end of a rule set. And this is what is happening right now. And this is why I think everybody tries to just throw everything at their car in hopes to make it work. And for some, it's not working out.
Oh, that's
And
part of the
and
gamble.
on the other hand, for the McLarens, for Mercedes in this case, and it works out. And dude, God knows if it's working out for Red Bull or if it's again just Max dragging that car up the grid. We don't do. Maybe the McLaren is. Maybe the Red Bull is as on pace of the Ferrari and the Mercedes, and he's dragging it up there to the level of the McLaren. We don't know that.
And we don't know what the next track will bring, or the next upgrade. We have that jeopardy, and it's what's keeping things excited. All right,
Absolutely.
Dave, since you already gave your positive and negative all at once, biggest winner dash of the weekend.
I'd say Piastri, right? Started off low as far as positioning goes, and then was able to get up all the way to P2.
It's a good call. Yeah,
I think it's
he had a
Piastri.
good solid weekend.
He had it's just kind of like yeah, it's kind of like what German Dave said, right? Like he was slow and steady, bided his time, extended his tire life, and then the moment the opportunity was there, he jumped on it. He almost got Russell. I think like he made the attempt on just couldn't get it. Just the timing wasn't there. But I mean, I thought Piastri had a nice quiet. It was maybe I'm over exaggerating, but I think it was a quiet race. I thought it was quiet, but he still was effective.
No, that was good. He had a perfect race, almost, other than not winning, but pretty close, plus a 1.9 seconds.
Yeah, and then I would probably throw Carlos Sainz up there with Piastri as well. Like both of them had like quiet but really productive races.
Yeah, they did their job.
How does that man still not have a cockpit for next season? It's crazy.
Oh, the rumors, the swirling. Apparently now he's going to
rumors
Alpine.
again. Oh my god, dude! Please stay away as far as you can from that
don't go
dumpster
there,
fire,
please
man.
don't. I want to like you still.
Oh my god, their car is better right now, better than the Williams. That is also rumored for Sainz. But brother, your mental health is not worth driving in that team.
Absolutely not.
Have fun like Bottas has. Bottas is driving around at the back and has a lot of fun still.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so my biggest winner for this weekend is another quiet one, but it's his best outing of the season. We got Hulkenberg here in the Haas 6th place. He got it done, and you can even say Magnussen. Haas is in general this weekend.
Shout out to both of them. Shout out to both of them.
Yeah.
So I mean, nothing exciting 6th and 8th, but for a Haas car, man, excellent showing this week.
And also, just one last time, shout out to their teamwork, like driving behind each other with the DRS, pushing each other's lap times artificially with that, passing cars together. They did it like the tactics in the F1 game, which you can do with teammates if you do co-op driving, basically.
Yeah,
you give the DRS to your teammate, it raises your straight line speed, and you're helping each other. Dude, they played the F1 2024 game in real life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what real life is supposed to, like how it's supposed to
simulator.
work.
It's supposed to work like that.
It is a simulator.
Except when you
Alpines drove like it was an open lobby.
All right. I have, just because there was so much jeopardy this weekend, I have, I guess, one final question to pose. The turning point. What was the turning point in this race? Because I feel like it can kind of be anywhere. It could be the first lap. It could be the last lap. It could be the crash. I don't know. Dave, turning point.
The first team radio, the tires are falling off. The first team radio. That's when the shit like went off. That's for me when Max lost kind of his cool and went back into his dark magic box. That's when his
dark magic box.
No, honestly, that is to me when he went from controlling the race to and it was like a switch. Like he went from his like the last couple of seasons, he was not challenged like actually. His car was working perfect. They were like, if needed, they could push the car. He had like a couple of races. He finished 30 seconds in front of the second placed car, and in this one, he realized there's an actual challenge by a different team. And he realized it in those laps where his tires were going off, and he saw like the gap to Norris narrowing lap by lap by lap. And when they came up behind each other from the pit switch within 1.9 seconds, I knew shit is going off.
Beauty. Dash.
I was gonna say the pit where I don't want to say he came out unsafely, right? But where Max kind of jolted out, I think that was a subliminal sign that he wanted to sign
So the
for
first
Lando.
pit.
Yeah, I think that right there was where I noticed it. Where I'm like, oh shit, Max is nervous to Lando.
Okay, so we're all in the same theme where it's between Lando and Max here. So mine is gonna land right in that second pit stop because you know how I am. I like to think about that back tire changer dude, right? Because we always forget about him.
That long nut.
That long nut. No, you know how I like to really focus in on the fact that this isn't just the drivers, right? There's the whole team at play here.
Yeah.
And these dominoes that continue to fall throughout this race. So his nut gets jammed on. They have to go at it a couple times. His stop is slow. You know, it actually wasn't that bad. It was about 4 seconds or so. So having a stuck nut and doing it around 4 seconds, not bad. But then, because Lando, yes, it was because he couldn't release because Lando was in the way. And that's what those small margins do. The first domino fell, the nut. The first one was the tires falling off. The second one, nut stock. Third one, Lando was on your ass. You can't release. His tires fire up quicker than you on the out lap. Bam, races on.
Bam.
That's where I'm landing it.
Then punctures his suspension.
So, man, that was
a wild
weekend.
Quick sometimes. Hey, it can go off that quick sometimes. You just need like 2 drivers that are eager to win the race. And in this case, you have 2 young guns that aren't holding anything back, which is, like I said a couple of times, Hamilton did in 2021. He was
Hamilton was old. There was
to risk it all. He had the experience of he learned his lessons the hard way. There were seasons where do you remember the 2016 season where he lost the championship because of his engine failure in Malaysia?
Oh yes, of course, the famous one.
Rosberg won that race, and that was what led Rosberg into the last couple of races with a big points gap. And he learned his lessons the hard way that every single point that you earn is important. So he doesn't risk everything for the 25 if he can settle for 18. And these 2 brothers don't settle for the 18. And this is
this is what I'm saying too with Hamilton. I mean, he was 36, I think. Anyways, I mean, we're talking about mid-30s guys as opposed to mid-20s guys, right? So when Max is fighting Hamilton, there's those 10 or so year age gap. Lando and Max are pretty much within a year or so of each other. Like they're the same age. They've been racing together forever.
Do you think those two those guys came into fisticuffs back in the behind the scenes with Lando and Max? Do you think they were yelling at each other?
I think
normally they're pretty good with each other. What happened on the track and their complaints and everything is just in the heat of the race. I think they're personally like pretty okay with each other, but we will see how it develops when they actually challenge each other. We will see how they will like each other. For example, Hamilton and Rosberg were the best of friends. They were best friends. Like they went through the youth ranks, through the karting series, through GP3, GP2, and everything. They were together in all the series, and they were like actual best friends. And then they were in the Mercedes, in the best car. There were no challenges for Mercedes except them in the team. And they were fighting tooth and nail, shoving each other off the track, crashing each other, which ironically gave in 2016 Max his first race win because the Mercedes took each other out in Barcelona. It was Max's first race in the Red Bull, and he won his first race immediately, as a fun fact as well, because the Mercedes crashed with each other. Crazy. That's how it goes sometimes.
That is how the cookie crumbles. So a beautiful weekend of what ifs and crumbling cookies, dominoes falling, however you want to make that analog there. I thought it was great. It's almost stressful. The fact that this is happening at the same time as the Euros and the Copa America.
It's crazy.
It's so crazy right now. Absolutely just jam-packed with content.
And we will have another one next week, man.
The Copa what? The who?
Canada's through quarterfinals for stop by scoring 1 goal.
God, what a disgusting competition. No, like I'm not even saying that to jab at Canada. I'm just saying overall, what an absolute disgusting competition.
Yeah, I know. Well, we'll
Yeah,
keep.
and the British GP next week in Silverstone, also a classic track, an incredible
Ooh,
track for
yeah.
overtakes,
Iconic.
and it should be suitable for the Red Bull and for the McLaren, so they will be close to each other again. So I'm expecting fireworks now, man.
Oh yeah, this is in terms of like just actual racing, on track racing in Formula One. This may be the best track out there.
Yeah.
That may be debatable, but it's definitely at the top of that list, within the top rankings of best racing tracks in the world. So let's go.
Let's go.
Love
I'm
it.
here for it.
I see it.
All right. Well, that was a fun one. Dash, you want to roll this one out?
All righty. If you guys haven't already, and if you are new, make sure you like and subscribe. Also, for the Formula One fans, we do talk some footy. So also join us for the footy stuff, and also for the footy guys that join us for the Formula One stuff. Love you. You're awesome. If you would like to scan the QR code for the Discord channel there, we talk Formula One, Juve, and some other shenanigans as well, and some footy as well. We have been live and predominant on the Euros in the general chat currently, but obviously that's a great stop and a great spot for you guys to go there. And for the footy folks, we'll see you Wednesday for Tinfoil Hat, and for our Formula One folks, we shall see you next Sunday after we recap the Armageddon that the Silverstone circuit may potentially bring us, but we're all here for it because it is going to feed millions if this Lando and Verstappen rivalry heat up.
I'm here for it. All right, guys. Dave, Dash, thank you. And everyone else, thanks for joining. And until next time.